the classification, there were a lot of classification in PCOS. So if you see between 1990 and 2009, there were three main groups that classified PCOD. The NICHD in 1990 was the first classification, National Institute of Child Health and Human Development. Then came the Rotterdam classification in 2003, and then the AEPCOS Society classification in 2009. And the three pillars of the classification were hyperandrogenism, oligomenorrhea, and polycystic ovaries on ultrasound. So these three parameters were used for classifying, but there was a lot of confusion, tussle, fight. Everyone said, I am the best. So there was a problem. And because of this three classifications, we could not do studies. We could not do proper studies. We could not compare. We can't do meta-analysis. We can't do RCTs. And that is why all the next slide, all the international consortium people, they got together. And this was in around 2017. This was governors which included 6 continent international advisory board and a project board, 5 guideline development groups and consumer translation committees. There were 37 societies and organizations covering 71 countries. 20 face-to-face meetings took place over 15 months, and they addressed 60 prioritized clinical questions involving 40 systematic and 20 narrative reviews. And evidence-based recommendations were developed, approved by consensus. Actually, voting was done by the 5 guideline panels and modifications were done. So it was exhaustively done. And this next slide, and this whole classification which was there, it was done with the main partnership of HC and ASRM. And you can see in this, I have listed the Federation of Obstetric Gynec Societies of India is also one of the contributory bodies in this international engagement. Next slide, please. And this recommendation then were published. Someone, because there were different groups, all of them published in their own journal. So I don't know whether we published it in the Foxy journal or not, but the HC published it in the HC journal. And one of the most quoted one was Dr. Helena Teed, who published it in Human Reproduction and Fertility, Sterility, and Clinical Endocrinology. So this was a led by Dr. Teed. Unfortunately, the one who publishes first always is remembered. So this recommendation will be always remembered by Dr. Teed. But Dr. Norman, Robert Norman, who has come to India many times, he was also one of the main persons who did this contribution. Next slide. So if you look at the guidelines, so I'm going to go and I'm to run this narrative in parallel, what we know and what is the guideline. So I can coincide the thing and I can bring convergence in your mind about the thought process. So the first guideline was the endorsement of the Rotterdam criteria. So among the 3 classifications, everyone agreed that the Rotterdam criteria, which is the 3 parameters, any 2 of the 3. So Rotterdam says that you have to have hyperandrogenism, you must have anovulation, and you must have a PCOD pattern on ultrasound. Any 2 of these 3, if is present, that is called PCOD patient. And this Rotterdam criteria was accepted, where both oligo and anovulation and hyperandrogenism are present in a patient. You don't need ultrasound for diagnosis. In adolescent, both hyperandrogenism and oligoanovulation are required, with ultrasound not recommended for diagnosis, because in adolescent, anovulatory symptoms and PCOD morphology are not sufficient to make a diagnosis in adolescent, because they can have this even in a normal course. Next slide. So remember that the 3 pillars for diagnosis are hyperandrogenism, menstrual irregularity, and polycystic ovaries on ultrasound. Any 2 of these 3 is called a PCOS. Most of the time, because the whole concept, our knowledge is based on the West. As the Westerners, the most narrative part of this classification is the hyperandrogenism. So hyperandrogenism is the clinical main aspect of PCOS. And you can see, you can have a clinical examination of hyperandrogenism, which will manifest as hirsutism, acne, androgenetic alopecia, and acanthosis nigrans. Or you can have a laboratory value, high circulating levels of testosterone or androstenedione. One of the 2, if it is high testosterone with everything normal, is still hyperandrogenism. Menstrual irregularity can be oligomenorrhea or amenorrhea, or a high level of LH hormone, and polycystic ovaries on ultrasound, more than 12 follicles in each ovary. and the follicle size should be between 2 to 9 millimeter, and the ovarian volume should be more than 10 ml.
Absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely. But this is going to be a practical session. Sir, what is the role of DNC in PCOS? This is asked by Dr. Surabhi Mohabe from Bangalore. So you have a patient who is coming in reproductive age and she is not conceiving. She has got an ultrasound report of PCOS. So we usually subject them to DNC, hysteroscopy, ultrasound. So what do you suggest, sir? Should we do a DNC?
I think that it has a therapeutic role because what you're doing is you're scraping out the endometrium. My only thing is that you should also put a hysteroscope with it, because small polyps you may lose by removing. Many times, I have done in the past, I have done hysteroscopy, small polyps also I have removed, and they become spontaneously pregnant on their own as well. So a DNC should be, every gynecologist should have a hysteroscope, I feel. If you put, you have to look at the cavity, you must put a hysteroscope inside, and it is quite easy and accessible to have it. And I am now planning, Niranjan, I am now planning, I was just thinking in my mind just 2 days back that now the time has come for me to now give my knowledge free of charge. People charge money for knowledge. Now I have taken a decision that in the future anyone will come, they will be taught without